Oh, so. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to our Monday, November 3rd, 2025 City Council meeting. Thanks for everybody for being flexible, as tomorrow night is election night. We have, over the past several years, had the tradition of not having a meeting on election night. So we're going to go ahead, start with the invocation, which I'll do, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you for all the participation across the country, the county, our city, in this, our election season. Everybody remain educated, up to speed on what's going on, and make the best decision they can personally, and go with their heart and their mind. We respect the process and look forward to what comes tomorrow evening. Thank you for providing for our first responders, looking after them, and please be with us tonight as we make the decisions in the best interest of all of our citizens this evening. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go ahead and call a meeting to order. Start with roll call. Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Ball.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cargill.
Present.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Dunn.
Happy to be here.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Present.
All right, we do have a quorum of, we'll go ahead and move ahead. Do we have any requests to change the agenda? Councilmember Ball.
Yes, I would like to move item 10C to general business.
Okay,
Um,
are you making a motion to move it?
yes, yes.
Okay, so the motion is to move item 10C to general business 11D.
Yeah, that would be correct.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Kennedy. All those in favor of moving 10C to 11D, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. Any other proposed changes? All right, not hearing any.
Mayor, I'll make a motion then to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. We have a second by Councilmember Kurtz. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. Citizen comments. We're up to that fun time of our meeting where we make time for our citizens to make public comment on any topic here at the meeting. So there's opportunity here in the council chambers. If you'd like to make a comment, there we have half sheets on the table by the door. You'll fill that out and get it to Rochelle at the end of the table. If you're online and would like to make a citizen comment, please send a note to our meeting host in the chat feature and we will call on you. I'm not seeing any movement in chambers, so I won't go over the rules. Do we have anybody online? It does not look like it. Okay, just remember we'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting and also for comments specific to the second read ordinance later on in the meeting. So we'll move up to announcements, proclamations, and special presentations. We don't have any. We'll move us on to city council reports. Councilmember Ball.
Okay, I'll make it brief. I know I usually have a lengthy report, but last week I went to the screening. It was a private screening of Fentanyl Death Incorporated. The film was, I thought it was made by Rudine, but it was actually made by a guy named Mark, who's an expert in the field. And the film is narrated by Billy Baldwin, the actor. Both of them were there. And then they had a panel that included the sheriff and some other folks. It was really interesting and really sad. But Rudine company here in Liberty Lakes is sponsored it, and they've also created a foundation. The mission of the foundation is they work with organizations and programs that encourage a healthy and productive life free from the disease of addiction. Their vision is they strive to address gaps in the system of care for those who are struggling with substance misuse. They implement a diverse approach in working with various organizations to make a sustainable impact in our communities by focusing on prevention, treatment, recovery, and support. And it is personal to this family because they lost a member of the family to addiction. But some of the horrifying facts that I did not know. Spokane is has the fourth highest death rate in fentanyl overdoses in the whole nation, which is really sad. And just basically some of the things I learned about the substance itself, there's been all kinds of talk about, where it's getting in and so on and so forth. The precursors, which is what they make fentanyl out of, there's a lot of different ingredients, come from China. And most of them are going to Mexico to the cartels, who then create it in a form that can be smuggled and made available to people. But the really sad part is that now people in the United States have learned to make it themselves. And we, not that we knew what was in these precursors, but they're putting things in it now that it's just poison. Everything from gasoline to horse tranquilizer. And that's a new strain with the horse tranquilizer in it. When you see an addict that's basically like a U, they're just totally hunched over, that's what they're on. And it's going to kill them. And the one thing that just shocked me, the reason fentanyl is so deadly is it sends a message to your brain to not breathe. So it's a nasty thing. We all know that. It's a nasty, nasty, horrible thing. But, if you can, look up this, it's called Rudine. What's the name of it?
Race Rudine Foundation?
Yeah, Race Rudine Race, RAYCE, Rudine Foundation. Check it out. Yeah, because I left there just like, oh God. Yeah. So cool.
Thank you for that. Any other council comment? Go ahead, Councilmember Dunn.
Last Monday, the 27th, I sat in on the Spokane Valley Fire Commissioners meeting. This was their staff's review of their budget for 2026. I'm pleased and happy to report. I'm really impressed with the fiscal responsibility of our Spokane Valley Fire. Dare I say they rival our fiscal responsibility in ensuring that there's cash reserves and that operations are always in the black. I took time then as a public comment to thank Commissioner Soto and his deputies for their recurring reports to city councils throughout their coverage area. For me, it's really important that they keep in top of mind the increasing response rate that our public safety agency has to report on, just that we have visibility and constant reminders and awareness of what they deliver for us in services. I also thank them graciously for ongoing discussions regarding our mutual benefit from TIF Lift. They're active in discussion regarding participation, and my comments, I think, incited some good conversation about how this program is beneficial and will be beneficial ongoing. So I think there will be more votes and discussion on the part of the fire district upcoming.
Right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, next up, the mayor's report. I'll make it kind of as short and sweet as I can. Over the last couple of weeks, I've had a growing list of meetings that have been coming up. We did have the AWC District 1 meeting, which I think all but one of our council members was there, so I'm not going to need to do much of a recap there. Hopefully you guys all walked away with your packet with the legislative priorities. And speaking of that, upcoming the end of this week, I believe it is the AWC Legislative Priority Preview. So if you're not signed up through AWC's website, feel free to get signed up for that, and they'll go through in a little bit more detail what we heard at the meeting last Friday. And the food was great. First event I've been there is catered by Chevalitas, and the sandwiches were amazing and enough for a lot of people to take one home with them. So really, really well run, and I think it was quite a success. I also had the opportunity to attend an event, the women panel last week or so, discussion on free markets. And what was really interesting to me was the discussion. The main two panelists were from a couple of our local banks, Washington Trust being one of them, the VP of HR, I forgot her name. I think it was Global Credit Union. Not Global Credit Union. I forgot the other bank that was their local one. But anyway, it was really interesting. I had no idea the difference in the tax implications between credit unions and banks. Credit unions being nonprofits and not paying B&O and all these things, which that explains. I've always wondered why, we a lot of the very large banks make a lot of donations right across the country, but it seems like the credit unions always seem to have deeper pockets, and it's because they can be more profitable. They don't have the onerous tax burdens that our banks do. So I did not know that. It was a really, really good lesson to learn. We had the promotion of Officer Logan Irvin, well, to corporal, so he's now our corporal. Darren Powers moved to follow family to Tennessee. If you remember, Corporal Powers was the one who received the award not too long ago. So he followed family to Tennessee, and Logan Irvin is now our newly promoted corporal. So always good to see promotions come around. I remember when he was hired several years ago. So it's nice to see our ladies and gentlemen grow through the organization. Tomorrow, and I'm glad I looked at my calendar, is the GSI Economic Forecast. Tomorrow morning, the Valley Chamber annual meeting is Thursday. Friday, I have a meeting with Lois Bolenbeck from SRTC. Since I'm the incoming chair for SRTC, we're doing a meeting to kind of prep for next year, kind of go through what what priorities might differ, things like that. We had pre-meetings, we rely on them as the experts to to kind of guide us. I'm not expecting any big changes, but I'll be obviously getting together with our staff as well to see if there's anything that I could maybe extra that we can bring to the table as the city, as we have the opportunity to be to chair that commission. AWC legislative priority review that I mentioned is coming up, SRTC board meeting, and then the Visit Spokane board meeting is coming as well. So busy few weeks coming up. Aside from that, I think that's enough for me for right now. So we'll go ahead and move over to Mark for his city administrator report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and guests that are joining us both in the chamber and online. Hopefully make this a short report tonight. Just a couple of events to remind you of. Want to draw your attention to next Monday, a week from tonight. We will be having a special city council meeting here at City Hall. This is our first special meeting of the budget cycle. There will be several that follow, and Kyle may even touch on the budget schedule during the workshop that's to come later on this agenda. The following day, so a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, November the 11th, is the Veterans Day holiday, and so City Hall and the library will be closed in observance. And then a little bit downstream of that, Friday, November 21st, just a reminder, that is the deadline for receiving applications for the open city council position number 7. And just as just sort of a clerical point, applications must be received by 5 p.m. On Friday, November 21st to be considered. And then a week after that, we, as hard as it is to believe, are already announcing the Thanksgiving holiday, which will be Thursday and Friday of November 27th and 28th, where again, City Hall and the library will be closed in observance. Are there any questions about those things before we move on to the others?
I've got a quick question, Mark. One thing we haven't touched on this year is the sewer and water district leaf drop off. I know they're having it, but we haven't really mentioned it.
Yeah, Ben highlighted that a couple of meetings ago. It started today, I believe, and runs through the end of November, if I'm not mistaken. We will put another post out on our social media to remind people, but you can start bringing your yard waste leaves primarily to the water reclamation facility that one of the commissioners chides me when I say that, but that's the name on the map. And so if you're looking for it, that's what it's called over here on Harvard. And did I say the deadline? I mean, not the deadline, but the end date, end of
The end of
November. Okay. Any other questions about the events? Yes,
Where do
ma'am.
they take the leaves then?
They compost them, and I'm not sure exactly what they do with the compost, but they compost them.
So Ben just chimed in on chat, November 3rd to 5th of December.
5th of December. Thank you, Ben. I wanted to give council a very brief update on the International City Managers Association's annual conference. I had the opportunity to attend that last week. And so, like your normal association conferences, there were sessions. I tried to focus my time on things that had to do with economic development, kind of emerging technologies, public safety. There's a lot of exciting things happening in the public safety realm with the use of emerging technologies. Lots of things on the economic development side. But the key point that I wanted to make here is that I was invited to join a panel to speak and highlight the ongoing efforts that we are making as a city on the Government Finance Officers Association's sort of rethinking budget initiative. And so that's something that I presented. I sat on the panel. I had the opportunity to do that, but you should take a measure of satisfaction in that because it is the council that has adopted that methodology as our budget framework, and it's you that's pushing that forward and making the changes that are necessary so that we incorporate that mindset into our financial program and the way that we budget and the way that we talk about accountability and investment and return on investment. So I just wanted to bring that to you so that you can take a measure of pride in the fact that people outside, in fact, across the United States and in other countries are interested to hear what's happening in Liberty Lake because in some ways we're blazing trails in that regard. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Any
Thanks for
questions on that?
representing us so well.
I humbly do that so that we can continue to tell our story. So, and then the final update that I'd like to bring is just another reminder that we have launched what we're calling the Resident Request System powered by SeeClickFix. This is live now. In fact, I think earlier today, David uploaded a short video tutorial. Our plan is to kind of follow that up with several in a series to just give people more confidence in seeing how to do the things that you need to do in this system to get us your request and to see how we are responding to those. So check those out on our social media pages and on our website and start using this system to tell us what you need us to do. And we will make regular updates on how that is going at council meetings in the future. Any questions about that or anything else before we move on? In that case, Mayor, that concludes my report.
Super. All right, we'll move into workshop discussions. First is the 2026 to 2031 Capital Facilities Plan Workshop. Welcome, Lisa.
Mayor, council members, citizens, thank you. First, as Evan is pulling up my presentation, I just wanted to let you know that the capital facilities plan that's in your budget book, there was an error in it. We had a last minute change and that affected the whole executive summary. And I reran the graph. And unfortunately, in my hastiness to get that done so that it could go in the packet, I apparently copied the wrong graph into it. So we have corrected it. There's a copy on your desk for you to add to your budget book. And as always, in deference to my aging eyes, as well as perhaps your aging eyes, I have printed this in the large format so that for discussion purposes. So next slide, please. So I just want to remind you, capital facilities context, the Growth Management Act does require us to adopt a 6-year capital facilities plan every year. This is, you guys should be getting into the rhythm of this for sure, because this is an annual event. It typically runs pretty parallel to our budget cycle because the 2026 capital facilities projects must be in the 2026 budget. And so we try and parallel the capital facilities plan with the budget. I do want to remind you that we are in the process, in the throes, in fact, of putting together our periodic comprehensive plan update. And with that, we are going to be producing a 20-year capital facilities plan. So we always see a little bit of movement in the out years as things change and whatnot. I want you to be aware that there's probably going to be a little more movement as we start looking at a full 20-year plan in terms of what happens in years 3, 4, and 5 of this plan. Because I think that we're trying to really much more comprehensively address what we need to do to invest in our existing assets, maintaining those, keeping the value, as well as addressing the growth that we know is coming. Again, we don't have all of the data yet, but we will be getting it as our master plans and are wrapping up. We will be getting the data to filter into that, and that we will be really starting to put that together in earnest in December and January. Next slide, please. Again, you had the opportunity to review the preliminary draft to start a conversation. There have been a few changes to this, actually, surprisingly not a lot. Again, we sought your initial feedback. Now we're really kind of getting down to the nuts and bolts of this and hoping to get some more feedback tonight. The SEEP and the public hearing notice for the proposed CFP was published or will be published. Wait, it was published on the 4th, and it was, wait, it wasn't published on the 4th. It was published on this last Friday. Anyhow, public hearing for the CFP is on the 18th. The adoption is tentatively scheduled for December 2nd, but it will run parallel with your adoption of the budget. So if that gets pushed out, this will also. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to pause for a second, and we have a pretty robust plan for capital investments in 2026. Not surprisingly, a big chunk of that, 52% is actually parks and public facilities, considering the investment that we're making in the new city hall. We also have a little bit over 4 million in investments in the transportation system. Although one of the things I want to comment on, and I know that you know this, for budgeting purposes, we put the full dollar amount of projects into the capital facilities plan. But you'll see in the notes column where we have already secured or are anticipating grants. And we have gotten, and we actually have a couple transportation grants already in the bag, and we are waiting to hear on the TIB. So we'll talk about that a little bit the next slide. Next slide, please. So I did want to point out that one of the things that's changed is that the construction of Mission Avenue overlay, that's the Mission Avenue on the south side of the city, was rolled over into 2026 thanks to the pavers strike. It was too late in the season once they wrapped that up. But we are looking to get that done in the spring. Mission Avenue frontage improvements, which is TP4. So that's the one that is just to the west of Selkirk Middle School, and the Moultrie overlay. Both have already received grant funding. So we have grants for those projects. The city has applied for a TIB grant for Mission Avenue grind and overlay on the north side. So that is from the storage facilities to Harvard Road. And that application, we should be hearing probably the end of this month, certainly by early December. TP14, TP15, TP16, and SW5 reflect ongoing maintenance and repairs of various city assets. And those are new to this capital facilities plan. Liberty Lake Road, Country Vista intersection improvements, TP17, are to be constructed with the Country Vista, the first phase of Country Vista rebuild. And we're going to be adding 2 eastbound turn lanes. Sprague Avenue and stormwater, which was originally programmed for this year, we determined that we really needed to wait and do that as part of the Sprague Avenue construction project. So that's been bumped out to coincide with Sprague Avenue's reconstruction. Next slide, please. Parks and public facilities. Got to point out that the police improvement plan, PF3, reflects PD facility upgrades necessary to maintain accreditation standards, but we do have later in that, we do have PD improvements to the existing library PD facility once PD moves out. And I do want to point out specifically that because the timing of that is based upon when we think the timing of the library could occur. There's $2 million in 2031 for those renovations. There's also $2 million in 2032. You don't see that because it's only a 6-year plan, but you will see it in the 20-year plan, so don't be surprised. So our new City Hall upgrade reflects fully loaded costs for renovations of Legacy Church to include design, construction, taxes, and furnishing and fixtures. Parks and Arts has updated their 2026 request to 317,000, which includes a rollover of 110,000. So the amount that they're requesting is not different. They're just rolling over more than what they had anticipated back in August and September. City Hall Asset Management, PF10, and Library and PD Asset Management reflect simply the cost for maintaining equipment and facilities as identified by our asset management software. And the City Hall renovations, PF12, reflect costs for renovation and building system updates for Parks offices here, once we move over to the Legacy Church building. Next slide, please. Town Square Master Plan, PF13, is to be determined and is based on the outcome of the Parks Master Plan. So we'll know that. We actually won't know that until probably January, February timeframe. Citing/master plan for a new community pool, PF14, may also be updated based upon the outcome of the Parks Master Plan. So those will be things that we're going to have to contend with in the 20-year, because we just don't have we won't have the data in this fiscal year. Renovation of old library space, PF15, recognizes the need for additional space for PD as the city builds out. And the new library community center, PF20, uses the estimate for option 2 from the facility plan, and it's actually not as it is as a placeholder. Parking lot restoration, PF22, creates an annual fund for maintenance of parking lots at city facilities. That's just an ongoing, and as our infrastructure ages, one of the things that is important to recognize as a young city, we had a lot of new infrastructure, but as we're aging, as we're maturing, we're starting to reach the age where we really need to invest to maintain the standards of our public infrastructure. Next slide, please. In terms of long-range planning, LR2 and LR3 reflect ongoing work for the PUG grant and the climate planning grant in support of the periodic comprehensive plan update. And the grant cash flows are based on the timing of deliverables. We've detailed that at the bottom, and that was a helpful thing for Kyle as he was working on the budget also. Solid Waste Management Plan, LR5, is a new project estimated at 65,000, and we are a couple years past due on completing that. Harvard Road Impact Fee update, LR6, is planned for 2027. And again, as we finish our transportation element and we're wrapping up the network analysis, and we'll have cost estimates. Harvard Road Impact Fee update will be an opportunity to look at impact fees related to improvements that we need for the next 20 years. Also, we have a project, engineering design standards, LR7, which will be updated in 2027. We actually have quite a robust list of changes to our engineering design standards, but we just haven't had the capacity to get those done. And one of the things why we're looking to budget for it is because one of the things we'll need to do is get CAD drawings for all of the engineering standard drawings. And that's, we don't have CAD in-house. It's a very expensive software program. We don't really have the capacity to do that. Next slide, please. Equipment, so there, you will find in the capital facilities plan, there's no descriptions for equipment because the notes should be pretty self-explanatory. if you have any questions on equipment, I really need to defer to Jen and Ben. They can talk to you more about the implications from their operational standpoints. Next slide, please. Projects by others. The next phase of the hub expansion OT3 is projected for 2028. Although Phil was in not very long ago, early kicking the tires on his next phase. So we are already in discussions with him. Harvard Road Roundabout OT5 is being evaluated as a possible signal in the network analysis. There is some conversation, the main players with the county who process these have changed. And there was a comment made that that because it's an existing infrastructure, existing right-of-way, that perhaps it should be the city that does that. If the city does it, we also have to look at the issue of right-of-way acquisition. And I think there's an argument to be made because it really is development driven and was a condition of the preliminary plat for River Crossing East that should be on them. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who does it because it is TIF and LIP reimbursable. The question, however, is if we do it, it's going to be a lot more cost effective to do a signal. And if we do a roundabout, it would have to be a 2-lane roundabout. So that, yes.
Where's Wellington? I can't see it.
Wellington is the main entrance into Trutina. It goes across
yeah.
into the
Trailhead for
Knoll
the-
district.
Yeah. Oh.
Property acquisition for STA transit parking, OT6 is included in 2028, although construction is not planned until 2036. So that's after the expiration of TIF, so it fell off. I have made STA aware of that, but so that we are communicating with them on it. Kramer Parkway construction may be completed this year, but they won't be seeking reimbursement until next year. So this is the extension of Kramer Parkway between Mission and Indiana, and it's already under construction. They are trying to final plat actually that phase before the end of the year. And the Indiana extension is complete. But Greenstone will likely not be seeking reimbursement until 2026. And actually I have a question on that because that Indiana east of Harvard is not a collector or an arterial. So so that may not even be eligible for TIF reimbursement. Just saying.
Lisa, can I ask you can I go back to the Harvard Road roundabout?
Yeah.
You mentioned that if it was a roundabout, it would need to be 2 lanes.
Based upon the network analysis, yes. For in the 20-year period, so it wouldn't make any sense to not build that now.
So I guess my question is, so why then at Harvard and Mission, where the freeway comes off there, does that have to be eventually extended to 2 as
That's
well?
going to be extended to 2 lanes as well in the 20-year.
Got it. Thank you.
However, because you've got an exit right there, that can be designed. So if anybody's ever driven on roundabouts on Highway 2 in Airway Heights, they're so well marked that it's very intuitive.
Saying in News World where they.
Highway
all
2
marked.
up by Costco
Yeah.
is exactly the opposite. I understand roundabouts and that's non-intuitive to me. Anyhow,
Thank you.
just saying. Next slide, please. The potential projects list, again, I've gotten no input from council. It remains the same as it was last year. That's really up to you, council, to propose additions to that. But it does reflect what was on there from last year. And with that, I stand for any questions. I have my red pen in hand and my oversized spreadsheet to mark up if you have any changes.
All right, Councilmember Paul.
Okay, I have a question on PF2. Why, because, wait a minute, is that, so the building is like almost brand new, the Public Works building?
Yes, but yes, it is, but they need additional space. They also need additional paved area for vehicle parking, et cetera. And I would, beyond that, I'm gonna let Ben speak to it, but I do know that they're adding some additional offices.
Well, my question is, why didn't they just do that in the first place? So, yeah.
Because one of the things that we were challenged with is that we had done the design for it, and then we bid this post-COVID when inflation was skyrocketing for construction costs. We were very challenged to build this in that environment. And we were seeing to the tune of 20+% inflationary increases in construction materials, et
Mm.
cetera,
Mhm.
things that we couldn't get,
Right.
things that we had to swap out because the lead time was so very long. Major supply chain issues as well as major inflation issues really negatively impacted that project.
Ben's on, Councilmember Ball, if you want any other info.
No,
Okay.
no, I just wonder why it wasn't all
Yeah.
done in one fell swoop,
Yep.
you know, so.
All right, next,
Thank you.
Councilmember Dunn.
Lisa, in the pedestrian section, we've recently been introduced through the analysis to some real challenge to the existing sidewalks. Is there a row that you'd recognize here as preservation to existing sidewalks?
So yes, there is, but I think that we're gonna have some, obviously, this is for sidewalks that we are responsible for, and one of the things that I think that the thing that needs to be discussed, frankly, is how we might be looking more comprehensively at addressing the sidewalks. So this is something that frankly, we won't have answers to until we get through the sidewalk master plan. So that's again, another one to put a pin in it for the 20-year capital facilities plan. And I hate to keep saying that, but the work is being done so that we have the data to be able to have some answers in that 20-year plan.
I guess I'd recognize that the need to try and make redress for existing hazards moves a little bit for me, inside from a long range plan. And I'd rather see a recognized project we'll call preservation, restoration of existing sidewalks. I don't have a dollar amount to try and project into this, but I think recognizing this with a row and a capital facilities plan would be a good planning move.
One thing that I could suggest is to put the line item in there, put it for like 28, 29, 30, 31 to be determined, something like that.
That's what I would suggest. I would ask, actually. I do foresee pedestrian safety, sidewalk restoration, and specifically preservation. For me, that's a key word when we talk about grant activity, or especially in upcoming legislative priority. The utility of the word preservation, when we talk about what we're trying to do, I think is going to be important.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Lisa, can you help me here? Maybe I'm just not reading this right, but I want to point out two of the sections and see maybe it's just a timing issue or maybe I'm just not reading it correctly. So under roadway projects on the very first page, total roadway projects for this year, 429,955. Are there others that are going to come in that are going to push that up a little bit?
Are there, I'm sorry?
Are there outstanding bills that are going to come in that are going to push that spending up a little bit?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It's possible, but I'm trying to think of projects that, I mean, we're rolling over the costs for Mission Avenue overlay. So you see that reflected in 2026.
So it's pretty
Full
close.
construction piece. And the other thing that we're seeing is that construction costs, we may actually see some savings. And
Yeah.
I want to knock on wood seriously and not laminate either, because the bids are coming in a lot lower. at, at the end of this year, then, and we did not adjust for that because I don't know that it will hold.
Do you remember off the top of your head, when we were sitting here about a year ago, what our 2025 projected total was gonna be?
I can't say with certainty, but I know that we had, as I said, Mission Avenue improvements were in that, so that's 1.4 million right there.
Right.
And
The-
again,
The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I guess I'm having a little bit of heartburn, or at least I'm just, these numbers are popping out to me, that we're going from 430,000 in total, 430,000 in total roadway projects in 2025 to 4.3 million, and basically staying around 4 for the foreseeable future, all the way into 2031. And maybe that's what we want to do. Maybe that's what we need to do. That's just a pretty large increase, even if we had Mission in this current year, and it was 1.4 and we spent 2 million, we'd still be doubling. Well, I guess we would have taken down, Mission wouldn't be in 2026, but I guess that's what was jumping off the page to me. I didn't see that in the pedestrian projects. I mean, it's pretty similar. Other than a bump up in 2028, which that's a project there for the Appalachia Trail extension. I also saw it though in the stormwater project. So I just want to highlight those things and then maybe find out if I'm just not understanding it correctly.
so,
So,
Quick, if I might jump in, so so we've got the numbers, the 2025 to 2030, 2025, the TP 1 through 16, the road projects, 2.562.
2.5, okay. Okay.
the other thing I want to point out, and this is important, is that we have gotten grants we have, let me get this, we've got over $2 million in grants. And if we're successful with the Moulter. No, wait, Moulter is the one that we got. If we're successful with, the Mission Avenue North, we'll have 3 million of that will be in grants.
so Mayor Pro Tem, if you compare the two CFPs, the delta between the 2.562 million, which was reflected for the 2025 spend in last year's CFP, and what you're seeing in this year's version for 2025 is pushing the Mission Avenue grind and overlay and the Mission Avenue overlay into a future year because of the work stoppage. That's essentially the delta.
The other thing I want to say is that these are projects that pretty much have all been on there, except with the exception of some. Yeah. Except for with the exception of tree replacement, roundabout, median beautification. And these are projects that have been on there. The other thing is that one of the things that we lacked, we've been looking at these, we know these are projects that we need to do. Until Ben came on board, we didn't have the capacity. We were really stretched to try and do what we were doing with the staff that's also responsible for development reviews.
So is that then the same thing for the stormwater projects? I mean, we're going from 8.
Stormwater projects is a little bit different. We were going to have the stormwater projects. We moved a big one to be constructed with Sprague Avenue. We
Right.
thought we were going to do it this year, but when we got into the design of it, we realized we really did not have enough room with the challenging topography and whatnot, and it really had to happen on the north side rather than the south side of the right of way, which is, so it's got to be done as part of that project because we're going to have to change the slope of the roadway in order to make the drainage on the north side work.
And you're talking about Moulter to Gage.
Moulter to Gage, that project was specifically added because it was competitive for grant funding at that point in time, and we didn't want it to, if it was in too bad a condition, it wouldn't have been competitive. We were told that that was our best shot at that particular grant funding that we got.
So then one more question then, on the equipment capital. Same type of thing I'm noticing. We're going from the 162 that we're spending this year to 537 and then back down more toward the 140, 200 mark going forward. Are these all things that we need to put into 2026, or should we be trying to spread those out a little bit more?
I'm going to defer to Jen and Ben on that. These are their numbers, so. Jen, are you online? Ben, are you online?
I'm here. I'm not sure if Jen is. I know there was a big delta when we had to pay for the water truck, and I don't have the big spreadsheet in front of me, so I'm not exactly sure what the big number is for the difference, Councilmember Cargill, but that might be the reason.
Okay, it looks like the biggest ones in here are the reel sharpener replacement for 80,000, the greens mower for 60, and the UTV for 47.
Okay, I think those are all for parks or golf. Most of mine are a little less than that. Jen might need to answer those questions, but I know a lot of our stuff, just like our roads, it's coming to its end of its useful life. And that was one of the reasons we're trying to include more of a fleet management plan through our asset management software, so we can actually track, hey, this piece of equipment's supposed to last 10 years and 1,000 or 100,000 miles. So we can get a better, because I think in the past we've just replaced things when they're almost broken. So that'll help us spread that out a little better in the future. But I think what you're seeing maybe in this last couple of years is like we're buying the last of the new things that we need. We're upgrading certain things, but it's getting more to just replacing things, which I think will normalize those numbers going forward. But Jen, I don't want to speak for Jen, but that might be some of the things that she's buying or is proposed to purchase next year that's causing the big increase this year. For this coming year.
2025 was projected to be 814.
I know that water truck was $375,000. I think we paid that bill this year instead of 24 too. So that might have made the numbers a little out of whack.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one concern when I look at this overall, is that, one, I understand the importance that we plan ahead for the roads, sidewalks. I completely concur with Councilman Dunn's concern on something like that. The thing that concerns me is that how some things seem to morph into, and I don't know how the hell it happens. And I'm going to refer to the study of the swimming pool. Now, in the first part of the presentation, I see we're having to do some research or something like that with parks. Now, when that first materialized, pools, that was on the potential future project list. And now it's not on there anymore, but it's evolved into something totally different.
2 years ago, council voted to put that on the siting for that into the capital facilities plan 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When?
A couple years ago.
A couple years ago?
Yeah.
That would still be making concern on it. We were looking at not having sufficient funds to do everything we need to do. And to suddenly get sidetracked on something that has had no public meetings, no public comment to speak of since 2017, when it was put to the citizens in reference to a pool. Since then, we've had no committees, nothing whatsoever. Now, if it advanced from potential future onto this, I could see where somebody's quickly going to say, when I take a breath, is that, oh, we're going to have meetings for that in the future. My concern is that it will never, ever go to the citizens. That will never see a citizens. That will probably materialize into a councilman bond to put this city in tremendous debt. When I look at the costs of just transportation, 2026, $4.3 million. 2017 money, it was estimated over $5 million to put in a pool in excess of $500,000 to maintain it. So what I hope as we move forward, that this council uses great common sense, that so much is being talked about this now with social media and stuff, it's almost a given that we're going to be putting in a pool. At a point that people will expect it, because the assumption is that knows the camel so far into the tent that there's no way of backing away from this. I'm very concerned about the future.
I believe that's why we put it as to be determined as part of the Parks Master Plan. It's something that is phase two, the master planning piece, the capital items, something that's being discussed.
My comments stand. Thank you.
Councilmember Spencer.
Yeah, my comments were gonna be similar, just looking at all of the other things that we have going on. My hope is that we would, take that line item, the PF 14, and at a minimum, move it out to 2031, or what I would hope is to move it back to that potential future projects list. Because it's my understanding that as long as we have it on that potential future projects list, if there is some sort of grant available, as long as we still have it on there, we could still be eligible for that. I don't know the likelihood of us getting any sort of grant for a pool, but
So as we go through this and there are requested changes, the process would be when we get to that point, make a motion, second it, it goes to discussion, and then the council votes on whether to
sure.
leave it, move it, increase it, decrease it, just like anything else in the budget. So, but we're not to that point tonight, but just go ahead and hold on to
That's
that.
all I wanted to say.
Great, thanks. Councilmember Kurtz.
And just on the same point regarding the pool, my understanding when I made the motion a couple of years ago and the council adopted it was because it needed to actually be on this for us to be eligible for grants. And so correct me if that is not accurate.
So as long as the reason why we have the potential projects list is specifically so that we can say that it is on our capital facilities plan. So if it's on the potential projects list, it is potentially fundable.
Anybody else? Councilmember Ball.
But Lisa, but we don't even have a site for it, so.
That's
That's
the
what I'm
$150,000 was for citing specifically. If the city was going to move forward with this, if they made a decision to move forward, the first thing they would have to do is a citing process.
Okay.
Whether you built a pool or not.
Right.
And I'll also just point out that at the time, this would have been during the in 2023 for the 2024 budget process. There was a fairly comprehensive public engagement related to the potential future projects list that overwhelmingly reflected the community's desire for, at that time, a community pool, which is part of the reason why it moved from the potential future projects list to the capital facilities plan as a siting and planning exercise.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. I really do. There was the overwhelming support to get this on the ballot twice. It was twice, it failed. Failed. So I'm not surprised that we get individuals who show up in this room and give overwhelming support to put in a pool that is so incredibly expensive to the city as we move forward. That's why I just say that the future council, I hope that you really look at what you swear to and what rules you abide by. Thank you.
I would like to remind the council as a whole that this is not the place to go back and criticize past actions of councils. We are supposed to be talking about forward. So I appreciate your comments going forward, but please, if we can refrain from criticizing the past actions of the council, that is in everything you read about being on city council. You need to respect that and not go backwards without criticism. So let's keep moving it forward, everybody. Mayor Pro Tem.
So, my concern is not necessarily about any specific piece of this. It's just an overall comment that I just went through and added all this up. This is a $103 million plan of all these different things for the next 5 years or 6 years, I should say. So, or 5 years, I beg your pardon. So, I just want us to be aware of that as we're thinking about the future. Where are we going to come up with $103 million over the next 5 or 6 years to not only cover this, but everything else that we have to do as a city? And it's not this, it's just a general comment. about all the things, if we hit the lottery, yeah, it'd be great to be able to do all this. But it's also thinking about the price tag is just enormous.
I will say that as we look at the 20-year capital facilities plan, we have to have some serious conversations. It has to be fiscally constrained. It will be fiscally constrained. Kyle and I will be working with the other directors to try and make certain that we have identified appropriate funding sources and that we have solid projections in terms of where this is coming from.
Can I just ask a quick
Mhm.
follow-up to that,
Yeah.
Lisa? So obviously this is only 5 years. When you kind of look out in your crystal ball, do you think about, or excuse me, 6 years, I beg your pardon. When we're looking out to the 20-year scope, do you think that this is a good indication of the rough amount of projects and spend that we're going to have over the next 6 years after that? And then obviously prices are going to increase, but
I don't know the answer to that because I don't have the data yet. And that is what we as a city have to figure
Right.
out as we're looking ahead. We're an aging city. My house is 20 years old and it's a couple years older than 20 years old. And I've replaced the furnace. I've replaced the air conditioner. I've replaced the dishwasher. I've replaced the refrigerator.
Mm.
It is the nature of things that it's the life cycle of a city.
oh, I don't disagree with that. I 100% agree. But to the point that was made earlier about some of these new projects that we're talking about doing, those are probably going to be where a good chunk of the money is spent. So
If we can afford to do it, and that's why the 20-year plan is kind of a level set, and it really gives the community the opportunity to say, if the community wants to pay for it, we as a city can absolutely do that. The question is, do we have the resources? Are we really willing to
Yeah.
pay for it? And this is, that's why I think the 20-year capital facilities plan is so critically important. And one of the things that, and I say this again, we still have to every year adopt a 6-year plan. So as the economy cycles through the ups and the downs and whatnot, we'll be looking year to year and over the 6-year period, what we think is really going to happen in that. But the value of the 20-year plan is to understand what are the must-haves that are coming, the bills that are going to come due, and what are the wants, and kind of balancing those two. And having that conversation with the citizens, I think comp plan's a great opportunity to do that.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, Lisa. We
Oh,
look
thank
forward
you.
to, go ahead.
So
One more.
Lisa,
Hold on, Lisa, one more.
So
Councilmember
this
Ball.
goes in our binder to take these same pages
Yeah.
out. Okay.
Yes, the spreadsheets are all exactly the same. The only thing that changed was this chart right here.
Oh,
I put
okay.
the wrong year chart in it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Right. Hey, workshop number 2, legislative priorities.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Mark.
So I want to start out this workshop by saying that tonight's exercise isn't necessarily to exhaustively go through and identify every potential legislative priority. It's more of a introduction and a reminder of what the council has previously adopted in its 2025 legislative priorities, which you should have in front of you printed out. It's a 2-sider, so make sure you're looking at both sides there. And then to get you thinking about what the priorities for 2026 need to be, that we can discuss and hopefully adopt in the, say, first meeting of December, so that we have these ready to go when the legislature convenes in January. And so with that, I'll remind the council and for the viewing public, the state of, and you know this, the state of Washington is on a 2-year legislative cycle. And so the odd years are year 1 of the cycle, the even years are year 2 of the cycle. And so we're going into the second year of the legislative cycle. And so the 2026 legislature is only a 60-day session. So it's a short session. And that 60 days will go by very quickly. And so essentially the main purpose of the 60-day session is that the legislature is going to focus on adjusting and refining things, not necessarily crafting new legislation, although that could happen. They're going to try to pass a supplemental budget. And if you remember some of the conversation that came out earlier this year, they got to the point where the governor got to the point where he was projecting something like a $900 million additional shortfall over the next 4 years than in what had previously been forecast, which was in the billions of dollars. And so there's a pretty significant task in front of the legislature. And so having said that, as you look through what you have in front of you that is the adopted 2025 legislative priorities, I have some specific suggestions of things that we can take off and a couple of things that we can potentially add. But what I want you to do is to think about, from all of the things that we've previously discussed in workshops and regular council meetings and special council meetings, some of the topics that have been brought to our attention on affordable housing and e-bikes and e-scooters and law enforcement. And Councilmember Ball mentioned the documentary that she saw regarding the proliferation of fentanyl and other opioids, things like that, to help sort of craft transportation funding and preservation, to help craft the 2026 legislative priorities. And so as you look from top to bottom, and as you recall, the priorities are framed in the context of our 2024 to 2028 strategic plan and the strategic priorities that are identified in it. And so if you go from top to bottom, starting with public safety, I'm not, and of course the council can recommend and make changes as it deems necessary. I'm not recommending changing or editing any of those priorities. Once we get to planned growth and infrastructure, however, I would suggest that we remove items 2 because that's already happened, 3 because that's already happened. The legislature in House Bill 1717, I believe it was, accomplished that restoration and unity between REIT 1 and 2. I would recommend striking item number 5, which is related to the Department of Commerce's Library Capital Improvement Program. We've discussed that at length. In item number 6, I would suggest revising item number 1 to include the word expansion. In other words, hub outdoor field complex expansion. You heard Lisa mention the 2028 timeline and possible future projects in extent of that. And then I would also specifically add items to item 6 that ensure that we are focusing some attention on the authorization for the continued authorization for the Mission Avenue frontage project, which is TP4 on the big spreadsheet that we just reviewed. And then also the authorization for the Mission Avenue grind and overlay project, which is TP10. Both of those are programmed for 2026, and both of those rely on state funding that we would ask the state to reauthorize through its supplemental budget process.
Mark, on number 2, that's gone radio silent. Unless you've heard anything, I haven't.
So there was a bill that was introduced that was passed by the legislature, signed by the governor. So our deadline has been extended. If that's the one that you're referring to, number 2.
The Readiness Center.
Under number 6.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Maybe those need to be A, B, C, D, and E.
Yes, no, we can change those to 6A
Yeah.
and et cetera. So my understanding is that offer is off the table and it likely will not be reintroduced.
Yeah, in fact, I had heard several months ago that there was an entity, I don't know anything other than that, looking to do a long-term lease on that land with DNR.
That's my understanding.
Okay, great.
And I don't know if Lisa has any updates on that she'd like to share,
We
but,
can't share.
Okay.
anything, I guess, which is why I don't know any more than that.
right.
All right, we can take that one off.
If I could suggest, Mark, your observations of the Mission Avenue and Grind Overlay and the frontage improvements, to me, should rise to the top in terms of emphasis. They are absolutely local and they are, absolutely in this session. So defense of existing funds, in my opinion, in light of the 60-day session, should probably be our priority.
So in other words, 6A and B.
I think so.
All right. Not 6, 1, and 2.
Okay, now I'm totally confused. Dan, what were you referring to?
Mark has introduced that there are 2 projects in our existing capital facilities plan projected for 26, which includes some very important state funding. So Mission Avenue frontage improvements and Mission Avenue Grind and Overlay. The defense of those projects, specifically the funding of those projects, we would like to push to a very high priority position.
So those
Grants.
are not currently on the sheet that you're looking at. So
Okay.
we're proposing to add those and then move them up to the top.
Right, because there's grants.
And the
Okay.
one we have the money for, but we wanted to stay.
Yes,
Okay, got
That's
it.
the one we
Correct.
have almost $1 million for.
that's correct.
Right.
And that is the project identified as TP4.
And the other one's TP10.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other, Councilmember Kurtz?
6.5, the road bridge restoration projects in Spokane County. I feel like we talked a little bit about the state line interchange area, but then also curious about whether when we talked about this, the north-south corridor and completion of those projects and any support we can offer for those. So I don't know if we want to call those out as a group or not, or if they're just sort of blanket included in that.
So that's up to the council as the way you want to word the priority. We have talked in the past about preferring specific over general. So if you want to specifically call out the north-south corridor, we can certainly do that.
I would agree that north-south corridor to me is high priority for our region.
Anybody
Can
else?
I just ask a quick follow-up?
Sure.
So, on the north-south corridor piece, what would be our ask or our recommendation? Because it was supposed to be fully funded before, and they've told us it's fully funded. So I guess my question is, are we asking for them to just keep their word?
Yes.
And if so, then that's fine with me. I just want to make sure that, we're not going back hat in hand when they've already told us they've fully funded it.
No.
Yeah, I think the wording would be something to the effect of ensure or support the preservation of the funds to complete the north-south corridor or something to that effect.
Okay.
And we're not finalizing language here
Right.
today, right? We'll come back and do that.
Councilmember Ball.
Was that part of that Go Washington or something like that?
I think originally, yes.
Yeah,
But this project, the
north-south.
origin of this project is decades ago. I'm not sure where the One Washington funding fits into it, but the genesis of the project itself is decades ago.
okay.
Councilmember Kurtz.
And then I just think the state line, the stop signs were helpful, but I think that there's definitely some improvements that as an egress area for Liberty Lake and an ingress as well. Any support we can offer to have a better way in and out of the city on that end would be great.
Okay.
And
If,
is that more county or is that state? I'm not sure. It's a legit question from.
I believe,
County.
yeah, I believe it's in the county's tip, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? It's at Spokane Bridge Road and Appleway, essentially.
Oh, right. That's
Yeah.
a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
If you flip over to the back page or the second page, you'll see the economic vitality and opportunity priority. I'm not necessarily suggesting that any of these are edited or changed. I would point you to number 3 and just tell you that this is in limbo. The courts will settle this. There have been all kinds of actions taken with the new federal administration on this. It doesn't hurt to leave it on there, but I have no idea the timing of when any of that is going to be settled. So keep that in mind.
I would support its removal, specifically if judicial action will really determine the outcome. If it's not up to the legislature, it's up to the courts, then I don't think there's anything compelling about suggesting it.
Anybody oppose that?
I guess I don't see the harm in leaving it on. If the courts punt, then we're back to square one on that. So would there be, I mean, what would be the reason that we would take it off otherwise?
I would suggest that brevity is important and that in order to provide focus to what we're saying, less is more. So what we believe is most important is what we should present.
Well, let's take a note. Or like you said, we're not finalizing anything tonight. Let's
Okay.
hold that open for discussion.
Public service excellence.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
real quick? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
If I remember, Mark, just correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the reason we add that on there was because of the concern that we had with the number 3 in particular? Was because of the concern that we had about RV sales?
It was related to RV sales, but it was specifically the way that the Clean Air Act is being enforced by the California Air Resources Board related to large vehicles.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Public service excellence is primarily focused on unfunded mandates. Don't recommend changing that. And so that leads us to a couple of things maybe to consider adding. There's a significant push, and we just went through and I believe it was at last meeting, the council approved the collective bargaining agreement between the city and the police guild. There's a significant movement out there to fundamentally change collective bargaining and in so doing erode employer rights in the process. And so this is this was introduced in the last session. It will likely come back up. And so a recommendation that I would make is to oppose the legislation to erode employer rights and collective bargaining. And, you know, obviously the council can deliberate on that and make a decision as to whether they want to consider that or not. And then also just to point out that we've heard presentations from Ohana. We heard a presentation from the police chief recently to talk about e-bikes and e-scooters. There may be a call for clarification of some of those rules at the state level that would help us make more informed decisions on enforcement and things like that. Those would be the primary areas that I would maybe focus your attention on if we were going to add a priority or two, maybe some options.
All right, remind me the timeline on this, Mark.
So what we want to do is shape it into what I would call a final draft at the November 18th meeting, and then probably adopt it during the December 2nd meeting so that we can send it out to all of our counterparts and make them aware of it as the legislature gets ready to convene.
Sounds good. Okay, Councilmember Ball.
I just am wondering that presentation that the chief did on, like, what are they called, multimodal, or, you know, all these different devices that
Yes,
riding on. Is that on the website or is it on the Facebook page of the city?
I don't believe so. We can send it to you. I believe we included it in the packet, if I'm not mistaken.
Like, I've seen it, and yeah, but it might be a good idea. Maybe have David put it on the Facebook page.
Sure, we can provide a link to it so people can find it and
Or
see it.
he could, you know, he could also do a deep dive on that so people understand.
Yes, in fact, he and I have talked about the next several themes for the podcast, and this is on it. So
Yeah.
we'll be getting that
Okay.
on at some point.
Yeah, I think people don't understand the difference between all those gadgets. You know?
I would agree.
Yeah, on that note, I would be interested to see if between you and the chief could boil that presentation down into a bullet point as far as a priority at the state level.
We can absolutely do that.
One
All
more.
right, sorry, I was taking some
Yeah.
notes. Ange, go ahead.
And just wanting to double check, I guess for all of these different categories, have the department directors weighed in and given you feedback on anything that they would like to see from their perspective?
Not specifically, but that's a great point. We can have that conversation at our next directors meeting and make sure that we vet all of these and
Okay.
ensure that they're still on point.
Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem, were you next?
One item that I just wanted to bring up for consideration could be a number 5 under economic vitality. And that is that there's a proposal that's being pushed forward, although the governor says he's not in favor of it, to start an income tax in the state. And so how that would look, I am not exactly sure, but apparently it's got sponsors in both chambers, and it's something that is being widely considered. So that may be something we want to have a conversation about as well as we fine tune this.
Okay.
Councilmember Hertz.
Would we need to do more on that? I think we passed a resolution on that a couple of years ago that we were
Mhm.
not in favor of an income tax. So would there be any other steps for us to take to express our concern about that?
That's a good question. I would need to review that resolution and then I can offer a recommendation.
So the resolution in particular just said that the city would not adopt a city income tax.
Mhm.
So this would be just the state, whether the city would oppose a state income tax.
Okay.
Or support.
All right, go ahead, Councilmember Ball.
Back to first page 6. Oh, well, okay, we crossed out the number 2 one, so I guess it would be
What was it on the original?
3. We're gonna keep that in, right? Expansion of travel lanes on I-90 between Sullivan and State Line?
That would be my recommendation
Yeah.
unless somebody has strong feelings otherwise.
No, I think yeah, I want that in there.
Okay. All right, going once, going twice. All right, on to workshop number 3. Kyle, 2026 budget and consideration of public safety sales tax.
Thank you, Mayor. So as we populated the 2026 budget review, we put kind of the first meeting in November on the budget calendar as an opportunity to potentially begin review. We have populated November 10th, 18th. We have consideration of November 25th, December 2nd, and December 9th as possible meeting dates. And so in the interest of I think budget discussions during regular meetings tend to push up against our regular business. And so I think historically we've tried to stay away from that. And so with that, it was actually very timely to bring up this discussion of a public safety sales tax in light of kind of some recent information that we have received from the county. And I think it's really important to keep this context kind of at the forefront of your mind as we go through these slides. The county has put together a task force to review the proposition of putting a ballot measure together for the 2026 general election, I believe, to increase sales and use tax by 0.2% for this exact measure we're talking about here for public safety sales tax. And so we'll kind of dive in to kind of the finer details of this specific taxing implication and where that money is going, depending on whether or not we act kind of in kind and ahead of the county during some of these steps leading up to the next general election. So with that, next slide, please, Evan. And so RCW 82-14-450 is the specific RCW that authorizes cities and counties to submit a ballot measure to voters for a sales and use tax dedicated to criminal justice purposes. And so the next two here are the maximum taxing ability for each jurisdiction. Counties are eligible to collect up to 0.3% They passed a measure back in 2018 or 2019 to collect 0.1%. They have the ability to go up another 0.2% for public safety purposes. Cities are eligible to collect up to 0.1%. And it's really important to note that the maximum combined between these two is 0.3%. So if the county passes a measure to increase theirs 0.2, the city does not have the ability to collect a 0.1%. And so again, thinking of that as we kind of advance through these slides about the potential financial outcomes, the potential revenue outcomes of us potentially acting first, and what implications that has. Next slide, please, Evan. So some of the kind of the nuts and bolts of it. So the public safety sales tax prop may be submitted for a primary or a general, not the specials, not your February or April's. And it's a simple majority +1 is needed to approve the proposition. And this is kind of, again, kind of hearkening to what I've been discussing. The submittal of the ordinance or resolution to the county auditor. So if the county submits for the remaining allowance of 0.2% prior to the city doing that, they would still go on the same ballot, but the city would not get any extra benefit from that. And so the timing of when we pass a resolution to place that on the ballot potentially makes all the difference in the world to what jurisdiction actually collects the majority of the revenue. Next slide, please. And so upon voter approved, so if we're approving a ballet, it looks like, if you can see, I misspelled ballot. So if we're approving a ballot measure, the following scenarios apply.
Thanks for taking ownership of that, Kyle.
Are we doing the Nutcracker?
We're doing the Nutcracker, and hopefully we can get some money out. So if the city, places this on the ballot and it gets approved, 85% of the revenue generated from that is retained by the city, and 15% is distributed to the county. If the county approves this measure, if it's 0.1 or 0.2, they receive 60% of the revenue generated from the city, and the city receives 40%. And so you can see there's huge implications here on if we know the county is going to put something on the ballot to try to collect this, I think it's critically important for us to consider acting first to maximize the benefit of that. Next slide, please. This is just a quick graph of kind of our historical sales and use tax revenue, our collection so there are some points on here when we've gone from 8.7 to 8.8, 8.8 to 8.9. So those two that you see there in 18 and 19 were both county measures related to criminal justice and public safety. And then obviously the one that we see a little bit later on, that 0.1% in 2023 was the implementation of the city's transportation benefit district, transitioning away from utility tax into the sales tax for the TBD. And so over there on the right is our breakdown. We've seen this a couple of different times. It's good to just kind of get it back in front of you to understand what that breakdown is when you go to pay for something at Home Depot and you're getting a 9% sales tax. Where is that breakdown? Where does that money go? And so, next slide, please. So this is actually the kind of the real outcome of our discussion and our consideration on any potential next steps for this specific sales tax measure. And so if the city approves, if the voters approve the city measure at 0.1%, 85% of that voter approved ballot measure would equate to about $720,000 a year. 130,000 would be to the county. Alternately, if the county approves at 0.2, they are receiving upwards of $1 million plus of revenue that would otherwise have been earmarked for the city. And then the city retains 40% of that at $400,000. And so there is kind of a third or fourth scenario, if you will. If both are approved, the city does retain the $720,000. That's the 85% that we see on the left-hand side there, plus the additional 0.1 that the county would have approved, that would result in an additional collection of roughly $200,000. And so that would obviously, again, this all contemplates the county's measure getting approved as well. increasing our sales and use tax rate to 9.2%. Next slide, please. What would be the intended use of these? Obviously, it's public safety sales tax. It's going to be intended for public safety. Obviously, we can address the rising cost of operating costs associated with providing policing services. If you'll notice in the CFP, we do have improvements contemplated to the PD facility for out years. And so what we would do potentially is take a portion of that council deems appropriate, set it aside in the police capital fund every single year, and that gives us a buildup to a larger purchase that then we can cash fund with these revenues. Next slide, please. And so we talked about the 20-year capital facilities plan. I think there's a collective understanding that we have, I would say, tens of millions. I think that to Mayor Pro Tem Cargill's earlier comment, I think we have some breakdowns in the formulas in the CFP. We don't have $103 million. We have closer to probably 36 million. And so, but that is to say that we need to find a way to fund these. And if we want to cash fund them, we have some options here. If we want to take them to the voters and finance the capital improvements, we have options. And so this is kind of on the heels of the discussion we had when we had the first iteration of the 20-year capital facilities plan. And so we have options on the table to contemplate cash funding all of these things. There's some different levers that the city would have to pull to do that. And these are not discussions for 2026. This would be out years when we're actually facing those actual improvements on how we want to tackle those. So next slide, please. So the next steps, again, we are taking action on this now to position the city to collect the maximum amount of benefit from something we feel is coming anyways. And so I think our next step would be to contemplate some sort of timeline to adopt a resolution to put this on the ballot for either next August or next November to take it to the voters for approval before the county does. And so, again, all of this is moot if the voters do not approve it. But we really, I think, we want to set ourselves up the best possible way we can by getting out ahead of this potential outcome. So,
Kyle, do you remember by what percentage Valley passed theirs?
I don't. I'll have to.
It was 57% pass.
Thanks. I don't know who was first
Yeah.
in your.
Thank you. I have two questions. My first one is there been do we know what the county plans to do with it? Do they have a plan?
So I think just formulated a task force
Okay.
to kind of start that probably, that PR campaign to put it forward for next year.
And then I guess my second question is if we were to do a resolution and then changed our mind, is that something that can be undone?
So I believe there's a cutoff for each. So let's say the cutoff for the August primary is, and I don't have the exact date. Let's say it's May 1st. I think it is sometime in the first week of May, but we would have up until then to retract that. And same goes for the November, first week of August, we'd have until then to retract, I think. So.
Okay, I think I had Councilmember Kennedy and then Councilmember
Oh,
Ball.
thank you, Mayor. Kyle, if this had to go to the citizens, which it would it be imperative that we do it before the county puts it to a vote? Or no less than at least the same time county puts it to a vote?
So what I would, and we can discuss the merits of a primary versus a general.
Right.
I would recommend, and we would have to do some research on the success rate and the turnout of all of that. I would recommend we put it potentially in August to assure that we get out in front of the county, because we could pass a resolution at the next meeting. Hey, we're going to put this on the ballot for next November for the general election. And then between now and let's say April, the county says, we're putting this on the August primary. They pass it and we're potentially out of luck.
Councilmember Ball and then Mayor Pro Tem.
And so that, okay, so I understand the county can ask or can propose 0.2%, but we can only do 0.1.
Correct. And the only reason they can do 0.2 is because their ceiling is 0.3, and that's the same ceiling as the city plus the county. And so that's why we're kind of having this discussion. And so if they propose that 0.2, obviously our ability to take advantage of this goes away. And our sales and use tax that's generated in this city is largely funneled to the county.
What was that last part?
So the sales and use tax that is generated in Liberty Lake, if they take advantage of this before us, is largely distributed to the county instead of us here in the city.
So, okay, so if this is just for public safety, why is financing capital improvements on here?
This is just a larger discussion on the budget. We have contemplated significant contributions to PD capital over the next 6 years, and then further again for the next 20 years. And so the discussion of allocating a portion of the sales and use tax to those PD improvements specifically is kind of part of the larger discussion.
But what comes out of this, whatever 0.1% has to go to public safety.
Correct.
Okay, and then utility tax, we got rid of it. Why would we bring it back?
So if the council has an appetite to cash fund all of our capital
Oh.
improvements,
Oh,
we'll have several different options that we'll need to exercise to increase the revenue that we
They're just,
Up-
I was just
over
listing
and
the
above.
vehicles that are
Yeah.
available.
okay.
to continue to cash fund
Got it.
those capital improvements.
I think with Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Kurtz.
So there's a million things that I want to point out here. First of all, I'm not really in favor of asking the citizens to raise taxes just for the sake of asking for money or to raise taxes. I mean, and that's kind of what we're doing here, because if we do August and August passes, and then we get to November and the county one doesn't pass, we basically just increase taxes on our citizens without any recourse for what the county has done. It's not as if we're going to come back after November and say, oh, okay, well then let's just revoke that sales tax increase. That sales tax increase is there to stay. So we're rolling the dice on whether the county is going to approve that. We wouldn't be in this position, or at least I don't think we'd be in this position as a county, if several years ago, when that ballot measure was put forward, that would have passed, which this council unanimously supported, but the city of Spokane helped torpedo. At that time, we wouldn't be in this position. We would have a new jail being built, and we've had additional funds being built. So that's just commentary. I am not in favor whatsoever of putting, and I understand your reasoning for it, Kyle, and I think it's 100% correct. But I do not think, if we're asking as citizens to raise taxes, I do not think putting it in a primary election is a good idea. Primary elections are always low turnout elections. It's the middle of summer. No one's paying attention. If we're going to ask people to raise taxes, we need to do it in November when the most amount of citizens are voting in the election. That's my personal opinion. I think it's also important to point out, and I'm not going to be here next year to deal with this, but let's just say for the sake of argument that the library advisory vote tomorrow gets an approval, and we decide to move forward as a city with some sort of funding mechanism to build the library, whether that be a property tax bond measure or whatever the case might be. We're essentially going to be asking citizens potentially for 2 major tax increases within, at the least, 3 months of each other, perhaps on the same ballot. And so I have real heartburn with how this all is going to play out. I understand exactly what you're saying, Kyle. And yes, is it in our best interest as a city to, stick our hand in the cookie jar and get as much as is entitled to us? Yes, it is. But at the same time, there are a lot of downsides to something like this. And I would hate for us to be in a situation where are not only are we asking our citizens for two major tax increases within 3 months of each other, but we're also in a situation where we raise our own sales tax for the sake of getting this money. And then the county turns around and either pulls the rug out from underneath us, or the county says no. So those are my comments.
Councilmember Kurtz, you were next.
I'm on page 3 of the slides, Kyle. It seems like the thing that timing wise is important is actually the resolution itself, not the actual vote.
And I'll need to verify that. So
Okay,
Yeah.
because that makes a little bit of a difference to me about
absolutely,
how.
because if we pass a resolution on February and they pass theirs, potentially regardless of the date of the election, we still passed our measure first
Right,
and therefore would lay claim to the larger portion.
Okay.
Of the.
and I think that's one of my like key
Yeah.
questions is the
Yep.
time, if it's the resolution that's more important, because it seems like it is based on what's written here. And I think that then also goes into what Mayor Pro Tem was just talking about too. And my question earlier about whether we can take it back if we want to, because if we are looking at doing something different for any sort of revenue generation, which it does seem like we do need to do at some point, because that was what our city administrator talked about. I think the last time we met, we were going to have to generate revenue for some of these projects. I just want to understand the mechanics and the timing.
Yes, and so the county, from my understanding, is beholden to the same deadlines and schedule on putting things on the ballot. And so we could largely just kind of keep our finger on that pulse and see if we can kind of, I guess, predict what we think they're going to do.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an amazing one. As long as I've been involved, sitting out there and sitting here, this has got to be the most precarious one I've ever been involved with. I seriously do believe that. I've always advocated no new taxes, especially if we can live within our budget, we pay for things, there's no need for additional taxes. And I continue to support that. But here's the dilemma we're in. There's a possibility that the county could pass this, and who knows if the voters would or would not, and we're going to lose revenue. So to try to combat that, is it for us to rush in and try to get our citizens to approve a tax increase, which is tough to do, to put it across to the citizens that if we don't do this, we're going to lose revenue. And I can understand when it's public safety sales tax, if it's sold at that, it's easy for the public to bite into this. But if it's also known that some of that revenue doesn't strictly go to the public safety and it can go elsewhere, that's a little deceptive. Am I understanding that incorrectly?
So I think as a body, I think the understanding would be that this is dedicated to public safety and public safety only. So I think it would be the recommendation of staff, and I think probably of council, to dedicate 100% of the revenues to public safety.
Well, I would concur with Councilman Cargill. I'm not gonna be here next year to vote on this, and I wish everybody who's still gonna be here and the new ones good luck on this, but this is a tough one. It is absolutely a tough one. You know, damned if we do and damned if we don't. Can we afford to lose this type of revenue at the same time gamble? And then also take consideration, if we put it to the citizens, if they say no, then the county passes, then we've lost out. So, boy, there's a lot of balls in the air on this one. Thank you.
I've got a, well, we haven't heard from Councilmembers Dunn or Spencer. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this one is really bizarre to me. And I think it would be helpful to have more clarification as to whether it's the resolution that triggers the who was first in line or when you actually have the election. And I'm curious whether it were to take place on the same November ballot, whether that makes a difference. But you know, this just, you know, going back to your final page or close to the final page, talking about additional potential revenue sources, I think this just goes back to, you know, semantics. Are we living within our means? And when we do have projects come up like Trailhead and what we would have potentially spent on moving the library to the church building and peddling to the citizens that your taxes are not going to increase, because in my mind, that's disingenuous to say that, because while that specific act may not have increased your taxes, if you go into debt for X amount of dollars through a bond measure to fund XYZ projects, those funds, there's an opportunity cost that we've lost, right? Those funds that are now going towards Trailhead can't be used elsewhere in the city. So I think we need to be honest with ourselves when we are looking at these new projects and saying, is this a need or is this a want? Because we do have tens of millions of dollars of projects just in roads that need to take place sometime in the next 6 to 10 years, probably. I mean, we can probably punt some of those out, which is what we're probably going to have to do if we're going to be responsible about it, if we're going to try and pay for it with cash. And yes, there may be at some point along the way that we do have to present voters with something, but to me, you know, I like to take it back to the personal family budget. You know, if we, you know, as a family go out in the middle of the summer and buy a brand new boat, and then come December, we sit down with the kids and say, well, mom or dad's going to have to go get a second job. We need to bring in some more revenue so we can pay for food. Well, that's disingenuous. It wasn't that we lacked the ability to pay for the food up front. It was we went out and bought something that we didn't need. It was a want. And now we're coming back and billing it as something that is paying for a need. And so in my opinion, public safety is up front, is the top of the list. And yes, I would agree, if we go forward with something like this and bill it as a public safety, obviously we're going to put that money towards public safety. But at the end of the day, it's semantics, right? If we get an extra revenue source that's dedicated to police, that's money that we wouldn't have had to take from somewhere else to pay for public safety or for our police department. So again, I feel like we have to be honest with ourselves. I brought this up multiple times. We have to be honest with ourselves and determine as a council, as a city, what are the needs and what are the wants and what do we have the ability to pay for.
Okay, Councilmember Dunn, we haven't heard from you before we go back for another round.
Sure. You know, I recognize the county as a partner in the delivery of public safety, and specifically jail and municipal court services. I recognize that as a material expense to the city, and one that, I mean, I'm going to point to jail, and the number of times I've listened to Chief or Deputy Chief Morgan say, "Oh, it's red light at the jail again. We cannot bring anybody in." And so I personally am concerned about the county's ability to continue to perform their level of what we're obligated to in public service in the form of jail and municipal services. So I'm personally kind of concerned about ensuring long-term the ability for them to deliver services for us. So I'm concerned about, you know, a race to the people's purses to pull money out because I got to make sure that these jails are running. And I've got to make sure that our city has the ability to have fair municipal court services as they're required in the long term. And I don't think we're ready to invest in that. So I'm reserved, I guess, in trying to understand more about the total expense and what the county has or does not have in the ability to provide services long-term and ongoing. So I need to know more before I can support an initiative for the city of Liberty Lake on that.
And I think to that point, I think there will be additional information that comes out probably in the early part of next year that will kind of shed a light on exactly that for council to consider.
Okay, we've got Councilmember Ball and Mayor Pro Tem.
So, okay, so if we were to file a resolution, like soon, that would be like a placeholder. We'd be in front of the county at that point, right?
Yeah, and so I don't know if there's anything prohibiting us from submitting something, let's say in late November for next November. Just obviously the deadline on the back end of it's 90 days, I believe, or 60 days.
What do you, deadline for what? What do you mean?
To submit a ballot measure. So we pass the resolution, we submit that then to the county.
The resolution?
Yes. And
Okay,
so-
they know
we're interested.
correct.
right. Because, I mean, this recent bargaining with the union, it's gonna happen again in 3 years. I mean, it's shocking how much we pay now for police and public safety. This could be a tool to help us get there without, because they're gonna surely want to raise in 3 years. This could help fund them, is what I'm thinking. I don't know. I just don't think we should shut ourselves out from this because that's such a major expenditure. I would be, in support of the resolution just to get our foot in the door. So.
I know we've got one more comment. Just remember this, we're not making any decisions tonight. This is getting the conversation going. And I've got a question after everybody else is finished. Go ahead.
Well, I was just want to piggyback on something that Councilmember Spencer talked about. And that is that, we can say until we're blue in the face that these dollars are going to be dedicated. But any future council or any future executive could come in and present a budget on the police, let's say, for the city of Liberty Lake, that lowers the amount that we're spending in the general fund right now, but increases it from this potential new sales tax that would be coming in from an approval that the citizens put forward. So let's say we're going to get $1 million in revenue. A future councilor or future mayor could come in and say, well, then let's just lower the amount that we're spending right now by $1 million, and then we'll just supplement it with the amount that we're getting from the dedicated fund, and then therefore it would be dedicated. So I think we need to be careful about thinking that this is all going to be dedicated to public safety. It may be dedicated to public safety, but it's a shell game. We can move things all around, and that happens all the time. One thing I would be curious about, Kyle, and just something for us all to consider. I agree with Councilmember Dunn that I just don't have enough information at the current point, but I'm wondering if it might behoove us to do something like put a sunset provision on it. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we were to go forward with a ballot measure in August, let's say. And the ballot measure is for a 1-year sales tax increase, sunsets after the first year. And then the council would have to go back out into the community to get another approval. Would that protect us from the county potentially saying no? And then that way our sales tax increase would only be in place for a year. And then I guess the flip side to that question is, if we did it that way and the county also approved, would we still get the revenue for that first year of the split that we're talking here? Or would we be, does it have to match what the county is doing? In other words, if they do like a 10-year, for example, do we have to do a 10-year?
Gotcha. So, and all the things that I can bring back and provide clarity on.
All right, if there's no other comments, I do have a question, Kyle. At one point, I remember when we did we had a voter approved tax at some point. It was one of those ones that you noted before. At one point, a voter approved increase, and it may have been property tax. I'm getting my details mixed up, but hopefully you'll understand where I'm going. At one point, voter approved tax was if you were elderly, disabled, low income, you were not subject to that if it was voter approved. Is that still the case?
We can put provisions in there to omit those from the tax. We did something similar with the utility tax.
Right, but no, that wasn't it. It was, I'll have to refresh my memory. This just popped in not too long ago, so it's kind of floating around. But it was my understanding that with a certain type of voter approved tax, and it was like maybe at the county level, it wasn't up to the city to opt you out of that, but I can't remember for sure what it was. So I'll try to get more clarity on that and follow up with you. But again, that was years ago and my dad was still here, so,
That wouldn't have been a sales tax though, right? Because I don't.
probably,
I don't
that
know
would
how
be
you
really
would-
difficult.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
you would do that.
It'd be a,
Yeah, maybe it was a property
Likely a
thing that we were
property,
talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah.
All right, there's no other questions. We'll move on to workshop number 4.
Thanks, Cal.
I'm up.
So with Councilmember Van Orman's resignation, so went our appointee to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. And Councilmember Ball has expressed interest in that, but for transparency's sake, want to make sure we brought it to everybody. Give Kyle like 60 seconds, maybe a little longer to
Yeah.
remind everybody what the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee does. And see if anybody else is interested. If not, I would love to have a motion, if after hearing that, Councilmember Ball is still interested, would love to see if we can get her appointed or discuss somebody else. Go ahead.
Excellent. So the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee is comprised of 5 seats. One historically has been the chair, is a representative amongst the current board, the current council. 2 are from the hotels or the businesses authorized to charge the tax. And then 2 seats are from community entities that are authorized to receive the benefits of tourism-related revenue. And so the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee meets usually, I would say 3 or 4 times a year. And we put out an application usually in the fall. During times so recently we've had a little bit of trouble getting participation from the city hotels. Quality Inn recently changed hands to Garner Hotels, and so we're in the process of reaching out to them and trying to gauge their interest in participation as well. So more than likely, we'll put out the application in 2025 and conduct meetings in 2026. That said, obviously, as Mayor had indicated, Councilmember Van Orman was the chair of that commission, and so now that seat is empty. And so we need to have a discussion on that replacement.
Councilmember Cargill.
One real quick question, Kyle. Did you say 2 hotel representatives?
Correct.
So I guess this is as good a forum as any to bring up this question. With the 3rd hotel going to be opening here, hopefully in the next year or so, is there an ability to expand that so that all 3 would have a seat on there, or are we just going to rotate it among those hotels?
Right, not as the ordinance is currently constructed. It
Okay.
specifically states 2 that are authorized to charge the tax. And I think the Valley is structured similarly, where I think they solicit input from the hotels on who wants to serve in those seats.
Okay.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Is this the discussion period?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would recommend that this get postponed until next year. Come after January 1, we will have a full body here of 7 council members to give everybody the opportunity to be able to participate, but also vote on this. And I think it's something that would be important for incoming individuals that have that opportunity also. Seeing as how I believe now between now and time at the end of the year, they're not having any meetings where they have to be making decisions.
Not necessarily. And so what we would do is we'd put out the application, and then if the seat wasn't filled, we'd schedule meetings in 2026.
Once again, I would certainly recommend that this be postponed until 2026. Personally, I've never felt that the chairperson, being a council member, should have a vote on that, because it's spending money. That individual has a vote to spend that money, but also to be on the council and have the same vote when we approve that. I always felt there's a conflict of interest, but that's not a mountain I'm going to climb at this point. My recommendation would be to postpone this until council has a full council membership.
Go ahead, Councilmember Dunn.
I move to nominate Councilmember Ball to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee.
Okay, do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Kurtz. Any further discussion? Councilmember.
Can you remind us, Kyle, what the term would be?
It'd be for 2 years.
So from this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other further discussion? Go ahead.
So I don't have a problem with making this decision tonight versus waiting till the first of the year. However, it is gonna be essentially for for a year and 10 months of the next council. And so I think Councilmember Kennedy brings up a good point that the next council should be able to decide who they want to have in that chair, and that may very well be Councilmember Ball. But I'm not really sure it is a good idea for this council, especially half of it being a lame duck council, to make a decision that is going to be in place essentially for the next 2 years for this particular position. Not if you want to do it, Linda, you know, you'll have fun with it, I'm sure.
Councilmember Kurtz.
It sounds like the term is for 2 years, but January 5th, if I was like, I don't think Linda should be on there anymore, I can make a motion for her to not be on there anymore, right?
I would imagine.
Right?
yeah.
I mean,
So-
I think that's my
Yeah.
point, is that I think it'd be nice to have somebody on there for the remainder of the year. I don't know that this is a hotly contested or highly interested
Other volunteers.
thing, and she's interested, so I support her in that. If there's somebody else that gets on council in January and they're like, man, I really want to do that, I'm happy to bring that up on the agenda, but I don't anticipate that. So.
Anybody else? Councilmember Kennedy.
Do I understand? Now, this is just not filling to the end of the year.
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, Councilmember Spencer.
I'd like to nominate Councilmember Kennedy.
Okay, with no seconds, motion fails.
There shall be no second.
Come on.
All right, go ahead. All those in favor of appointing Councilmember Ball to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-1. Welcome, Linda. We will get you a full tutorial from Kyle.
Thank you.
All right. Action items. Oh, sorry. Yeah, consent agenda.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business items 10A, B, and D.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kurtz. Those in favor of approving items A, B, and D, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 6-0. General business.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business item 11A, the Banner Bank donation form for Home for the Holidays.
Second.
A second from Councilmember Spencer. Always, I was real excited to see all of these, so great work to, I know Mark Sabas had a hand in helping to reconnect with our former donors for Winter Glow, and Mikhail's had a great hand in this too, making connections, so let them keep rolling in, so thank you to Banner Bank. Any other comments or questions? Okay, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving the donation from Banner Bank in the amount of $750, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
Make a motion to approve item 11B, the Popular Companions Pet Supplies donation form for Home for the Holidays.
Second by Councilmember Kurtz. And another Popular Companions always seems to come through. Great supporter of the community, in addition to their Mutt Strut earlier in the year. So I'm looking forward to them being a sponsor. Any questions, comments? Okay, those in favor of approving the Popular Companions donation for Home for the Holidays, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Move 11C, the Liberty Lake Better Together fund donation form for the Liberty Lake Rock Garden.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Spencer. There's nobody, I'm surprised there's nobody here from Liberty Lake Better Together. Marla didn't want to come? No? Well, this is great. You know, it's a fairly new fund, and I'm really excited to see how this comes out. Linda, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Where is it gonna be?
If you look through the packet and Mission, Moulter and Country Vista is the proposed area kind of behind the bench there at Pavilion Park.
Okay. And then how do they plan to keep kids and vandals
that's,
from
that's not something I don't have any
stealing
answers to.
rocks, though?
Well,
Yeah.
but it could, I mean, Liberty Lake Rocks has been a thing since COVID and people plant rocks all
Yeah.
over. I still have some. Maybe
Right.
it could be a rotating, a rotating type of platform. I
Yeah,
don't know,
you-
but those are questions that,
Yeah,
and
and
Jen's not on.
pictures-
Mikhail, hold on, let's see if Mikhail's on. Well, he was.
Well, I'm just wondering if they're gonna like, have them cemented in?
I don't know. Mikhail, I know you're on. Do you have
Yes.
any details?
Not regarding vandalism per se. That spot was chosen specifically because it's near the elementary schools, and the program that Liberty Lake Better Together Fund is hoping to do is actually have an instructor come with students and help them paint rocks, teach them how to paint rocks, and then they would be set there at the park. So the location was chosen for convenience. I can imagine, vandalism could potentially happen similar that does happen in other open spaces in the parks that will have some type of monitoring that we can clean and fix it up as it does potentially happen.
And Derek Kosanki's on as well. Derek, I see your hand up. You have additional info?
Yeah, we just picked that spot, like Mikkel said. It's centrally located with all the schools, and we thought it would be easy place for everybody to access.
One of you guys, Derek or Mikkel, have you thought about like having them like set in cement so they can't be stolen?
So they won't be set in cement, but they'll have a frame, a concrete frame that we'll put around. And then the rocks will be able to be moved from that location to possibly other locations throughout the city.
Oh. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving the donation from Liberty Lake Better Together Fund in the amount of $9,000 for the Rock Garden, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 6-0.
And make a motion to approve item 10C, the scraps interlocal agreements.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Kurtz. All right, Councilmember Ball, I'll let you go first since you're the one who asked to move this.
Well, is there anybody here from Scraps?
No, I can let Mark or Kyle speak to it, though.
Oh.
It's just a re-up of what we already have.
Well, I know, but Jesse left. So is his replacement working out? Are things going okay there? Is it running smoothly? Do you know anything about that?
So we historically have very little direct contact with the employees at Scraps. We get our scheduled reports, and I can tell you, we do not get complaints from residents about animal control. And so that's kind of the two measures that we use. We are getting our reports that document the calls and the actions taken, and we are not getting complaints.
Okay, now I realize they're not open on the weekends, but what if is somebody, it kind of sounds like there's someone there 24 or on call or whatever on the weekends, but what if, somebody wants to come in and adopt a dog on the weekend? Does somebody,
They are open on weekends.
not according to the packet, the contract?
That we don't have anything to do with the adoption schedule.
Well, no, but I mean.
This is that we contract them with them for animal control.
Right, but these are questions that, I think are important, if they're available for people,
So their availability that is outlined in the ILA is strictly related to their enforcement of our animal control ordinance, not the adoption center itself or any of their other activities.
Okay, and last question, do you know who's on there? Oh, wait a minute, I have two more questions. Who's on their advisory board? I mean, not necessarily their names, but is it people with the county? Is it, citizens? Do you know?
I would have to clarify and get back with you. I don't know off the top of my head. I could research and answer that question for you.
And then on this page 71, this jurisdiction summary report, what does intact mean?
Not
Online.
neutered or spayed.
Huh?
Not neutered or spayed.
Okay.
Your
A good way to
reaction was
put it.
Very funny.
Okay, intact.
I didn't know that.
Alters.
not altered, not
Okay.
fixed.
Yeah, but yeah, it'd be nice to know, just how things are going over there, because, they've changed a couple times now since
Sure.
I've been on council, the leadership, so.
Well, we can invite them. We're entitled by agreement for them to come once a year and give us an update, so we can ask them to do that. It's been over a year since the
has
last time
been.
they had.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
Any other questions? All right, those in favor of approving the scraps interlocal agreement, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0. All right, we are up to council comments. Not related to, as usual, future workshops. Anybody would like to jump in? Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a comment back on the mayor's comment earlier in regards to the citizens tired of hearing about government or whatever the case may be. I agree with her 100%. The citizens, for the most part, said that that's a very annoying subject that they seem to see that we get into. But I want to point out that every instance we've had in this, within this council or this city that has caused chaos is because either an ordinance, resolution, policy, or procedure has not been held to, not only with elected officials, but with committee members. That has created conversations. And that leads us to why we spend so much time even on our governance to look at what are the rules and stuff that we will abide by. So I just want to point out is that you can't get away from this type of controversy, but when it does come up, address it. Don't keep kicking it on the table as it well would go away. Address it, make an ordinance, policy, resolution to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future and the citizens will be happy. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just wanted, Mark, you didn't say anything in your report, but isn't the tree lighting on the 29th of November?
Yes.
I don't know. Is that,
The home for the holidays, tree lighting?
for out here
Yeah.
at the,
Tree
so,
lighting.
yeah, so we were going to, everything downstream of Thanksgiving, we'll update you on
Oh.
at the next meeting.
Okay,
But-
but yeah, it's, okay.
The
Yes.
29th.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay, any other council comments? Go ahead.
Well,
Councilman
I just had a question regarding the deadline for the council member appointment. Do we know whether there's been any applicants so far, and will we get any sort of update between now and then?
I don't believe there's been any formal applications filed. Is that still accurate? And so we will update the council as we are getting applications if you choose for those updates. Our plan was to, after the deadline, is to announce the names of qualified candidates publicly so people knew who had applied that were qualified to then be interviewed by the council.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. I do support what you said is that as they come in, you will advise the council of individuals who have applied.
If council chooses to receive that,
I do. Thank you.
okay. Is that the consensus?
I don't need to know that. I mean, I can have conversations with staff if it was necessary.
Okay. Anyone else?
Everybody else want to wait till we get them vetted and see the final list?
Can I just make a clarification? Mark, when you say qualified, you're talking about people who meet the residency qualification.
And voter
Yeah,
registration.
voting
the qualifications that are established by state law,
Correct.
yes.
Okay, I
yes.
just want to make sure for people who are listening, they don't think that there's, somehow a whittling down process before it
No,
comes to us.
No,
Thanks for that, asking for that clarification. Councilmember Kurtz.
On sort of a related note, but I got to present to Girl Scouts about municipal government a couple of weeks ago.
Good for you.
And this was one of their questions was, what do you have to do to be an elected official? Does anybody have any guesses about what they thought?
Oh, wow.
So they're 10.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Mhm.
So you have to be very smart. And I was like, well, nope.
You don't
They're like,
have to be.
okay. And then they were like, well, you have to have a college degree. And I was like, well, nope. Oh, okay. So this is what they think their elected officials have. And so when we talked about, how long have you lived here? And I said, well, you guys have lived here for over a year. And when you turn 18, you can, and you register to vote, you can go ahead and be on the council. You can go ahead and apply. And they're like, oh, okay. So it was very fun to hear their questions and show them pictures from the director's reports of
Yeah.
like, they had a lot of questions about streetlights and just things, lots of things, and how big the city is and how many people live here. And so it was kind of fun
That's
to
awesome.
be able to show them some of the reports in the budget binder that I had just picked up. So,
Very cool.
Very cool, very cool.
So, all right, any other council comments? All right, we have no public hearings. We have no resolutions, but we do have a second read of ordinance 311. Rochelle.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 311, an ordinance of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, amending City of Liberty Lake Development Code and the River District Development Regulations regarding co-living housing.
Do we have a motion?
I move the motion as read.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Kennedy. All right, any discussion over and above what we have already had? Lisa's here if you have any questions. We've talked about this several times. I'm not seeing any. Okay, at this point, I will go to citizen comments. If there's any citizens here in chambers or online who'd like to comment on this item specifically, please let us know. Nobody's rushing again to the podium here in chambers. Is there anybody online who'd like to make a comment on ordinance 311? Going once? No? Okay, so we have no public comment. So we'll go ahead and take a vote. Those in favor of approving ordinance 311, amending development regulations regarding co-living housing, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion passes 4-2. Did you get the count, Rochelle? Yeah, did you get the, who's where?
I'm sorry.
The dissenting votes?
Yes,
Okay, so
the
pick-
motion passed
Got
4-2
it.
with Mayor Pro Tem Cargill and Councilmember Spencer opposed.
Great, sounds good. All right, we have no emergency ordinances, so introduction of upcoming agenda items. Wow, it keeps getting bigger. All right, so we got budget. We have the 25th just a TBD, just that is Thanksgiving week. I know we have people traveling, but hoping that's not needed. And then we have a bunch of other ones coming up, sign code, social media, youth. So since we're deep into the budget, everything else on here is TBD. Any comments or questions, Councilmember Ball?
Yeah, we should really try to wrap up the governance manual before the end of the year, since these guys, are all.
The problem is trying to find a slot
I
for
know.
that. Like tonight, we had 4 workshops. So we will continue to look at that as we continue to look at our advanced agendas and see if we can find a spot to kind of put some more of those in. Real quick before I get to Councilmember Kennedy, what do you think, Mark, about, because I know the council's gone through some of the pieces of it. Is it an option for the current council to vote to adopt certain chapters that have been gone over and maybe agreed to along the way, or should it be taken as a whole?
My recommendation would be that the council consider it as a whole
Okay.
document,
Got it.
but
Just throwing it out there. Okay,
sure.
all good. Okay, Councilmember Kennedy.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I feel strongly that it's not a matter of can we make time for it? We have to make time for it. We've had 2 special meetings on this item alone, and we only were able to cover about 75% of it. So we still have some additional items we need to go over, plus to have the opportunity for the council to bring up anything else that they're questioning. So I think this is very important that this gets done in a timely fashion.
Thank you. Okay. Hearing, Councilmember Kurtz.
I didn't know if we were done with that topic. I made a list of all the meetings that we have, and we have one every week until the end of the year.
Yes.
At this point, and I'm just not sure where we would fit it. I think, I know you mentioned the 25th and that it's a placeholder, but that's the Tuesday of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And if we do need to have it, would anybody be opposed to doing it on that Monday instead of the Tuesday? If we do need to do it? So people have people in town or leaving town or whatever. We're doing that in advance.
I would prefer that Monday.
Okay, so let's move it to what if, I'm assuming that would be the 24th and still TBD though.
And then my other just question is that the last meeting, the Spokane River Keepers, I had added that as an agenda item. I just don't see it on here as a future. We're talking about January.
We will make sure to add that for the next iteration, so it's on there.
Okay.
Got it. And then scraps,
And scraps.
not necessarily workshop, but a presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a special presentation.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, not hearing any. We have page 3. Citizen comments. You're at that time again. Is there anybody in chambers or online who'd like to make a citizen comment? I sit down. For those of who couldn't see, I was joking with our deputy chief over there. Okay, it doesn't sound like we've got any. All right, we have no executive session, so with no further business before the council, we'll go ahead and adjourn at 8:16.